Google AdWords, and pretty much all the tools that you use to grow a small business these days. So back then, a lot of small businesses didn't know how to use it for their business. And I also got to work with larger brands as well. And eventually, I started my business. We do training on Google Analytics 4. So multiple day, 2-hour trainings, half-day sessions, specifically on how you can understand how to use it for your brand. And some of our clients include Pattern Beauty, Tractor Supply, Lamar Advertising, and Charles Schwab as well. So throughout this session, I'm going to go over what is new in GA4, as well as what to look out for, and what's it about. How many people in here use GA4 right now? All right. Anybody frustrated with it? Right? Pretty much most people. Okay, so I look to share exactly what you need to know and what really matters within this tool. So whenever I put a picture on social media of myself, I get about 20, 30 likes. But when I put a picture of my family and my son, it gets hundreds of likes. I don't know what it is. So this is my family here. So we live in Houston, Texas. So, all right, so when it comes to search, when it comes to Google Analytics, the objectives haven't really changed. So you have what are the objectives, and you have what are you looking for. You have why people are on your site. You have when people go to your site, and you have what people are doing. So throughout all these changes over the years, something has remained consistent as far as optimization. So when you're looking at your content on GA4, you want to always think about how can you optimize instead of just looking at the data, instead of just looking at what people are doing when they get to your site. How can you optimize and grow, get more revenue, get more leads, get more donations, depending on what you're trying to accomplish. And also, you want to think about different websites, the different categories of websites. So there's so many different uses for Google Analytics. The reason why I use it so much is there's so many different businesses that can use it. So for example, I did a training for Canon, the camera company, and you would think that they want to see the traffic that comes to their site and the people that want to buy their cameras. But in reality, it was more so they wanted to see their intranet. They wanted to figure out what is going on with their employees, what type of content that they post internally that gets the most engagement. So we found out that sometimes people like to engage with birthday posts as far as holidays. So there's so many uses to this tool, whether it's a small business or a large organization. And you want to compare your brand to people that are in your same industry, not just comparing your brand to other e-commerce sites. Example, if you're like a law firm or something like that, you want to compare your site to similar sites. Now let's go over what it's all about. So the people that are new to GA4 or you haven't used it much, it's really about events. So I'm going to go over what it's all about. So for example, events, back when we had Universal Analytics, it was more so if you wanted to track if people clicked on something, if you wanted to track if people download a PDF, you had to implement additional code in order to get that information, right? But now it's a lot easier to do that. So you have a lot of automated events. So events is one of the main areas to focus on when it comes to GA4. And that's why it's so frustrating, because Universal Analytics wasn't like this. But now GA4 is focused on these items. So you have automated events and you have custom events. So for example, if you wanted to track outbound clicks, if you have an external link on your website, you want to track how many people click on external links, it's automatically tracking that for you. Scrolls automatically tracking, video automatically tracking, but the catch is a lot of times it's not custom to what you want. It's not going to give you details on, for example, what link they clicked outbound. They can show you that it's outbound, but it's not going to give you details. But that's where the custom events come in. So I'll show you how that looks as well. And then we have engagement is an important area when it comes to GA4. So years ago, when it comes to having good traffic on your website and figuring out if you have a good website, one thing you will look at is bounce rate. One thing you will look at is, are people coming to the site and going to other pages of the site? So now, what Google realizes, it's not really just about people going to your site and going to other pages of your site. It's more so, did they engage on your site? So for example, if you create a landing page for an event coming up, people might just land on that page and click a few buttons and scroll down. That doesn't mean that your landing page is not effective. That just means that it's a different type of website. So now, instead of bounce rate, instead of figuring out what page they go to. It's more so engagement. So this is about how long they stayed on the page. Did they click anything? Did they scroll anywhere? Did they click a video? So more about engagement. What are people doing on your site? And another area that GA4 has is the conversions. So conversions can be anything. So if you have an online magazine on your website, and a conversion for your website might be that if people click on 2 to 3 pages of that magazine, or if they download something, or it could be if they purchase a product. So those are all conversions that you can create, and I would encourage you to create. So there's so many different ways to consider conversions. And this can be seen as goals in the university analytics. And then lastly, what you want to focus on when it comes to GA4 is audience behavior. So in Universal Analytics, we were easily able to see what they're doing, but GA4, it's more so a specific objective, it's specific to GA4. So when it comes to that, you're thinking about not only are people on your site, but who's on your site and what are they doing, when are they dropping off, and the fact that you can create custom audiences to understand how you can better target those people. Now, when it comes to digital marketing in general, of course, you want to understand the customer journey. In any tool that you use, you want to also think about what does that tool, at what point does that tool play a role in the customer journey? So when it comes to GA4, you got awareness and research. So for example, research could be they are going to Google and they're trying to find a specific product. Within GA4, you can go to a tab where it says Search Console, and it'll show you what are people typing in Google to see your website on the search engines. Doesn't mean that they clicked on your website, but it'll show you what did they type in. So basically, Search Console within GA4. So you can see, okay, what are they researching before they get to your site? Comparison and purchase. So at what point did they purchase is an important question to ask, and you can figure that out in GA4. And not only that, but what did they do specifically after they purchased? And let's say you have an audience that you create, and that audience could be specifically people that purchased your product already, and then you can see what are they doing after they made that purchase. Or it could be retention. Maybe you want to track how many people are engaged on your site after they subscribe to your newsletter as well. So now that we talked about the general, let's talk about some ways to connect that with stories. So you have so many different types of stories. You have connection stories. You got to figure out what brings them to your site. What is the story behind your brand? Some people want to feel connected. And within GA4, you can figure out what they want to feel connected with. So for example, one of our customers, we were doing trainings and we found some interesting information. We were able to see what is being searched. Like I said, what's being searched before they get to the website. So we've seen searches such as woman-owned business, black-owned business, how to do your hair. So it tells us a story of they want to feel connected. They want to buy from different types of business, different types of groups. And whenever you're looking at this information on GA4, you want to consider the fact that you don't want to just look at the first column. You want to look at everything. You want to look at, yes, you have the views, but also you also have engagement. You also have revenue. You also have different columns as well. And then you can edit most of these columns that you see here as well. So now let's look at engagement stories. Engagement stories, so best times to post. So here's the best times to post on social media. Best times to post. I know we're all marketers here. Most of us, we've already probably searched this. We've seen this online for years as far as what to post. You have LinkedIn posting in the morning and afternoon, Instagram late, Pinterest weekends, X, all day. My personal opinion is the best, they say the best time to post on LinkedIn is Thursday. My opinion is that by Thursday, everybody's fed up with their jobs and they're on LinkedIn looking for jobs. Anybody agree? That's what I personally think. But I post this, but it really doesn't really matter. But because you want to see what is going on with your brand specifically, and that's what GA4 can do for you. What is the audience looking at? What time are they on your site, and when are they engaging? So I was at a conference, and I was speaking there to a travel agency, and they had a company there that kind of monitored data as far as how people get to Iowa. So it showed people travel on the weekends. It showed how many miles they travel. And I thought to myself, what if you target your content specific at those times when people are headed that way or those days? That would be much more powerful than just randomly targeting them with different ads. So one of the agencies, they posted this blog post. So how to spend 48 hours in Iowa City. So this was great. And I thought to myself again, what if they saw content like this during those specific days and times? So to tie it back to GA4, you can see exact times. So the day people are on your site, the hour, and the week. Anybody name why is it important? How can you use this information as far as like knowing exactly when people are on your site? Any ideas? Many times people say, well, they release something new. If they release some type of one-time coupon or project that they want people to engage with, they want to see exactly when they are online. And it goes back to having new products. So in general, a good idea for any type of organization is to always release something new. So one of my family members, they went to Six Flags in San Antonio, and I went to school in San Antonio. So when they came back, they told me that they went to a lot of rides, and I told them, oh, yeah, I rode most of the rides over there because I used to work there when I was in college. And they said, oh, no, there's new rides that just came out last year. And I automatically thought to myself, wow, I'd like to go back to Six Flags just because there's something new there. So within your brand, think about what can you do that's new that can entice current customers to come back to your brand. And to tie that into GA4, you have the real time. So let's say, for instance, you have the new products, you release something, you want to see exactly what they're doing at the time that they're doing it. So you have real time over here. It used to be just 30 minutes. Now you could do 5 minutes. So the past 5 minutes, what are people doing? And as you can see right there, in the second row right there, it says non-email subscribers. So that right there could be helpful, and that's an audience that you can create, non-email subscribers, and you're seeing exactly what they're doing. So once you release something new, go to this report over here, the real time, and see how they are engaging. So now we talked about connection stories. We talked about other types of engagement. Let's go into experience. So 80% of users are less likely to return after a bad user experience. So these days we have so many different distractions. Social media, you're competing against other brands. Really, that first impression is super important. So that first experience is important. So here you have the different type of engagements you can have, the different type of call to actions. And right here, these are the automated events that you get. So you have the add to cart, you have the scroll. But on the very bottom there, that's the one that we created for a client. So once people land on this insurance website, they are able to input their zip code and then click on submit. And so right now, we're able to track exactly how many people clicked and went through that process. So you can create the automated ones, and you can create the custom ones that are important as well. Now, on your website, you probably have a lot of different types of content. One type of content is video. So everybody knows that video is probably the best type of content these days, one of the most important. But let's say you put these videos on your website, and you want to figure out what's really working when it comes to these videos. So within GA4, whether it's a YouTube video, Vimeo, or any other custom video you create, you're able to track what people do. So again, the automated event is, did they watch the video? But the specific event, the custom event you can create is, what was the progress of that video? At what point did they click pause? At what point did they rewind? At what point did they move forward? And how many people completed this video? So all this is important because it'll help the team understand what type of content to focus on moving forward. So if you know that short-form videos work better, then do more of those. If you know long-form videos work better, then you know what to focus on in that area as well. So a good area that I always liked, even within GA4, and the thing about this tool, it can be overwhelming. And every time we talk with clients and educate them on how to use this tool, I always tell them, 90% of what you saw in Universal Analytics is still in GA4. You just have to find it. It's just in a different place. So for example, this report right here, you can find it in the reporting area where you can see where people drop off when people land on your site. But I would encourage you, where you see that red box, you can add more segments. So for example, let's say you want to see exactly the people that came through search, where did they drop off? And how many of those people clicked on the Contact Us button? Or people from social media specifically, what did they do to get to your site, and then when did they drop off, what page did they go to? And as you see, this is like when people get to the site, but you can also reverse it. You could say from the people that went to the Contact Us form or the people that went to the thank you page, take us back and walk us through exactly what they did to get there as well. So you can do different areas and different ways to see that. So now let's go to acquisition. So acquisition is important with marketing, and let's see how people are getting to the site. So right here, we're able to see how many times did they engage before they ended up converting. So remember we talked about conversions. So you create those conversions, and once you do that, it'll let us know how many times did they have to see the ad before they clicked or they converted. How many times did they have to go to social media? So here you see people had to go to search engines, they had to go to social media, they had to see your message on pay-per-click ads before they finally engaged in your conversion or call to action. So you want to make sure you're looking at these areas so you can know maybe this will tell you if they're having a good experience or a bad experience. This will tell you if they are struggling to finally understand your message, and if you want to make sure those steps are, instead of having 5 steps, you have 1 to 2 steps before they get to your product. So most of the time, people want to find the mobile version of your site better than the online, better than desktop. So I was doing a training for a builder on just the customer experience and just understanding your customer. And it so happened that the builder that I was working with, they're the ones that built my family's house. And I showed them on the back end how long it took for me to submit a warranty request until it got completed. And they were shocked because sometimes it'll take 6 or 8 months. So those are the kind of things you want to see when it comes to the stories that your customers are telling you when they look at analytics, when you look at the analytics. So now let's go into what to avoid within this product, what to avoid. So not being organized. So within this tool, you can easily make collections. So what this means is like, what you see up there is you can create a collection, maybe it's acquisition, maybe it's social, and you can publish or unpublish some of those collections as well. But basically, that's what you see right when you log in to GA4. And you have a lot of options there of what you want to choose for. But in general, making sure that you're organized, make sure you're getting what you need. And I always recommend, once you log into Google Analytics, you want to, within 10, 15 minutes, you want to see what you need to see. You don't want to be frustrated. You don't want to try to figure out where to go. You want to stick to about 8 to 9 different things you want to look at and then go from there. And that's the whole point of the GA4 is the fact that you have teams that are using it that are in PR. You got e-commerce. You got retail. You got small businesses. Now, all these people use it for different purposes. So you want to find out what is your purpose in using GA4 instead of being overwhelmed to try to understand every single thing about the platform. So one thing to avoid is looking at too many reports. So a lot of times you don't have to look at 20 reports. All you have to do is look at 1 or 2 reports, and then what you want to do is you want to segment down. So for example, it used to be called secondary dimension. Now it's just like a plus button where you can see, let's say you're looking at your top performing pages. And if you want to see what countries or cities they're coming from, all you got to do is press that blue button, and it'll show you exactly where those cities are, and it'll put it on the column onto the right. So now that we talked about that, let's talk about making it easy for your people that you're communicating with, the people that you're trying to get buy-in from. Looker Studio. Anybody use Looker Studio here? So I highly recommend it. So right now, GA4 is not to the point where it can easily create visually appealing reports for businesses, executives, managers. So what a lot of customers that I work with, they create reports in Looker Studio. So it's visually appealing, and what it does is you can pull from GA4 profiles, and it's going to create some nice looking graphs for you so you can use it for your team as well. And another thing you can do is think about catching changes quickly. So for example, if you wanted to figure out when there's a huge uptick in your visitors or when there's a lot of downtime when there's as far as social media or content in general, you can get alerted when that happens. So you definitely want to do that. And then we have audiences. So right here, if you want to create an audience and you want the requirements to be they had to come from Google, they had to be using a Chrome browser, and they had to have looked at your About page before they get to your audience, you can do that within GA4. And that goes to the same point of purchases as well. Let's say you want to have an audience specifically that are involved in purchases. So in order for you to be in this audience, they have had to have purchased from your business. In order for them to be in the audience, or they would have to be a non-purchaser. And as you can see on the bottom right there, in Universal Analytics, it used to be where you can't really create an audience, but you can do steps in order to create that segment. So for example, within this, you can also say, in order for them to be an audience, they had to take these steps, maybe go to the About page, maybe visit Facebook, or maybe do something else in order for them to be in the audience. So what type of audience are you interested in creating? Anybody? Any ideas? Any audiences that you thought of? One could be email subscribers, non-email subscribers, just like we saw earlier. So I would say consider that, because again, audience is one of the main benefits of GA4 over Universal Analytics. Now, when it comes to your story and other brand stories, sometimes we see people online, brands online, and maybe we think that maybe they bought followers, or we don't really know their story, or maybe they had one viral post. We really don't know the story, but I would encourage you to look into brand stories and look into your story on how your brand came to be. So here is Billy's Donuts. They are located in Houston, Texas. So they have about, over 50,000 followers, TikTok, and on Instagram as well. Now, in general, this may not be a lot, but for a small donut shop, local donut shop, that's a lot. So that's really not normal. So their story is interesting. They have 1,000 reviews. So whenever we want to do something in life or in business or at our job, we launch a new project, we want it to succeed. So that's what this dad did. So him and his son created their first donut shop in Houston. But something happened on the day of the grand opening. Nobody showed up. So empty parking lot, had the grand opening sign, empty donut shop. Here it is right here. So the son did a post. My dad is sad because no one is showing up to his donut shop. Turns out this post got over 700,000 likes. By the end of the day, they sold out of donuts. People were driving 45 minutes just to get some of these donuts. Social media executives were also coming by to see what was going on. News stations were coming by. And all because they wanted to connect on an emotional level, and they tell their story as well. And I talked to the owner, and right now they have 3 locations across Houston, all from engaging, being honest, and connecting. They could have acted like everything was great, but they wanted to be honest and connect with their brand. So think about your story and how that can play a role into your brand, and you're telling the story about how to use analytics and what budget you want to have as well. So let's look at what's new. So what's new when it comes to GA4? So there's been so many updates. I'll say they do about 1 to 2 updates a month with this tool. So let's look at some of them that are changing. So we have real-time pages. So real-time pages is brand new, came out not too long ago. And of course, when we log in analytics, we see the real-time reports in general that we can see what people are doing on the site. But this specifically, real-time pages, is new. So you're going to look to the left of your dashboard whenever you log in, and you're going to see real time most of the time. You have to have like special permissions, but you'll see real pages. So what this does for you is it helps you understand what are people doing once you launch something new. Or let's say, for instance, you get a client. What I do for my business, whenever customers reach out, I look to my analytics, real-time reports, and I see what has been going on for the past 30 minutes, and I'm able to see what type of pages they went to before they ended up contacting us, before they made those purchases. So whenever you have engagement on your site, make sure that you're looking at real-time pages as soon as possible. Sometimes I'm a little late, 30 minutes, but I know the data is like 24 hours. So if you don't get that 30-minute mark, you're going to have to wait 24 hours. So any type of engagement that you have, make sure you go to this page to see what has been going on. And then we have plot roles. So if you've logged into Ga4 recently, you've probably seen this, the check marks right there. So what this is let's say on this graph, you only want to see organic, or you only want to see paid traffic, or you only want to see email, or you want to see a combination of email and search. So that's what that means. So you check what you want to see, and it automatically comes up for you there. Also, advertising. So in the advertising area, it'll now show you what some of the audiences you can do to personalize your advertising and to target. So right there, it'll show you the groups, the size of the audience that you can personalize some of your ads for. So you want to make sure you connect your AdWords account to your business Ga4 as well. So the next update that I'm excited about, drum roll, anybody can do a drum roll? Yep. All right, sorry. Is you can now schedule. So it may seem simple, but I spoke at this conference 2 years ago, and then Ga4 was brand new, and they didn't have this capability. And essentially, I do all these trainings. Sometimes I do all-day trainings, half-day trainings, and after I tell them you can schedule reports, when I talked about universal analytics, everybody was always so excited because that's a major benefit. Because unless your full-time job is analytics, you're not going to be in analytics every day. I mean, I met somebody that works at AAA. His job is like analytics manager. He's in it every day. He knows everything about analytics. But for the most part, most of us are not in it every day. That's why I said create a report. I would say look at 7 to 8 different things you want to view, and then from there, schedule that report. On here, you can you can figure out which person you want to send it to. You can add it to multiple email addresses. Also, you can figure out how often you want to send it. Is it daily? Is it weekly? Is it monthly? And usually, this setup lasts for about 12 months, and you have to redo it as well. So I highly encourage that just so you can stay up to date on a weekly basis, and you can keep your coworkers up to date about what's going on. Now that we talked about what's new, let's talk about the buy-in, getting more buy-in. So here's some items you want to think about when you're trying to sell an idea or increase your budget, create new products, and things like that. So consider your audience. So who are you talking to? Maybe it's managers, maybe it's executives, maybe it's specialists, maybe it's team members. So think about what is their role and what do they care about. So know what matters to them. And be clear as possible of what you want and with the data. So again, Ga4 can be overwhelming, but you want to make sure that you are specific to their needs, not overwhelming them. And make it relevant to business. Maybe the main goal is to get donations. Make it relevant to how they can get more donations, or make it relevant to how they can get more revenue. And again, make it easy to understand as well. All right. So my name is Chris, and here is some information on how you can contact. We talked about a lot of different things. We talked about connection stories, engagement stories, and we talked about specific reports and what Ga4 is all about, and specifically what you want to look at. You want to look at engagement. You want to look at conversions. You want to look at a lot of different items just so you can understand. And remember, create these reports and have them emailed to you on a weekly basis so you're not overwhelmed. And figure out specifically why you need to use Ga4 and not try to see understand every single thing about it. So my book is available in the bookstore. And also what we do is we do trainings. Use these trainings. They are multiple days. Sometimes companies, they want to do 2 hours one day and 2 hours the next day. And it ranges from 2 hours all the way to 8 hours, scheduled across multiple weeks or multiple days. And it's from beginner, intermediate, and advanced. So usually it's really good for a team of marketers or one person or any size